So this is going to be the first episode of a new podcast series which I'm going to be starting, audio only, just so I can get more videos out throughout the week. If you do want to watch something in another tab and listen to me over the top, I've left some links in the description. The first is a channel that posts full games from the Tactical Camera view, and I'll also leave some highlight compilations of players that I'm currently looking at as potential options for Manchester United in 2026. So let me know what players you want future videos on, as well as if you like this audio only format, because it will allow me to put out more videos and videos quicker on specific topics. So in this video, not only am I going to try to convince you that Manchester United could win the Premier League title this season, but also that this particular season may be Amorim's best chance of winning it. And it's primarily because of one specific advantage that Manchester United have against all the other title contenders. Now, in terms of where I expect Manchester United to finish this season, I think we have to at least be finishing in the Champions League places. Obviously, 5th place doesn't guarantee Champions League football, and we'd have to rely on the English teams in European competitions, and so I think we should be finishing in the top 4. Top 5 bare minimum. In terms of my actual prediction for where Manchester United will finish, I think it's either going to be 5th or 6th. Maybe I am being slightly influenced by recent results, which could change after the Brighton game, but I'm going to go for 5th. And my primary reason for this prediction is also the primary reason why I say that Manchester United could win the Premier League title, and it may be Amorim's best chance to do so. And that is simply because Manchester United aren't playing any European football for the whole season, which would have been a massive advantage anyway going into the season, and after losing to Grimsby we now also don't have any League Cup games, which means that whilst the other title contenders are having to play European football as well as League Cup games pretty much every single week, Manchester United are playing one game a week, at least for the first half of the season, and even during the second half of the season with the FA Cup, we still have a massive advantage over the other title contenders. Now, of course, whilst this does give Manchester United a significant advantage, it isn't going to be enough on its own to allow Manchester United to finish above the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester City. Manchester United at this point in time, prior to the Brighton game, look like a pretty good outside bet to win the Premier League title if you weren't going to go for one of the top 3. But before I break down all of that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of new season and retro jerseys, including this season's Manchester United jerseys, as well as jerseys from other club and international sides as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you will get a discount, so I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments section below. So despite the gaslighting that goes on in the online fan base, trying to convince us that the squad is completely terrible and that we have to accept complete mediocrity for the short to mid-term, I think if you actually look through Manchester United's squad, it's the 4th best in the league. Take Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City out of the equation and compare us with Chelsea, who at the moment I think the majority would say are most likely to finish 4th this season. I just don't see how you can say that their squad, specifically their starting 11, is better than Manchester United's. In goal, you'd obviously have Lamens over Robert Sanchez, you'd maybe even have Bayindir over Sanchez, to be honest. And if we do go for a back 4 just for a bit of simplicity, I think centre-back wise, De Ligt definitely gets in there as a starter, and even if you were to compare Lisandro Martinez and Leny Yoro with Chelsea's centre-backs, you'd also have one of Yoro or Martinez starting alongside De Ligt as well. Now at right back, whilst they do have Reece James, his injury record means that they just can't rely upon him for the whole season, and so you've basically got Reece James for at most probably half a season. And when you compare Malo Gusto with Mazraoui, I think you could go with either or. I think Mazraoui is definitely better defensively, with Gusto providing more end product in the final third. So maybe you go with Gusto there, but you could also go with Mazraoui, there's really not a lot between them. At left back, if he was to stay fit for the majority of the season, you would obviously go with Luke Shaw, but even factoring him out and assuming he does pick up some injuries throughout the course of this season, and you go with Dalot or Dorgu against Cucurella, again I just don't think there's much between them. Maybe Cucurella just edges it at this point in time, but if you have Dalot as he was under Ten Hag, I definitely think he'd get in at left back over Cucurella. And whilst I don't think Dorgu is good enough to be a starter for Manchester United week in week out as a left wing back, against Cucurella in a back 4, I definitely think that you could say that Dorgu is a better option. Coming onto the centre of midfield, if we classify Bruno Fernandes as a deeper line central midfielder, because that is the role he's playing for Amorim this season, I think you'd have him alongside Caicedo. I mean, even if you use the argument that Bruno isn't well suited to a midfield double pivot, He is playing there currently in a 5-4-1, so in a 4-2-3-1 with Cole Palmer ahead of him and Caicedo, I think I would still go for Bruno Fernandes over Enzo Fernandez. And so already you'd have to say that Manchester United have the better starting 11, but when you look at the front three, I really don't see how it can be denied. João Pedro has been the centre forward that Enzo Maresca has used most this season, also having Liam Delap, but personally I'd rather Benjamin Sesko than both of them. And when it comes to wide attackers, whilst in the long term you could definitely say that Chelsea are stacked with talent in terms of potential, in terms of current ability, the options in the Manchester United squad are far better. You definitely have Cunha over Garnacho on the left side, particularly with an overlapping fullback like Dorgu behind. And on the right side, as I have said previously, even whilst he was at Palmeiras, Esteval Willian does genuinely have world-class potential, and within the next 18 to 24 months I do expect him to go on to become one of the best wide attackers in the Premier League for sure. At this point in time, I think you choose both Mbeumo and Ahmad over all of Chelsea's right-sided attacking options. And so really and truly, apart from the centre of midfield with Palmer and Caicedo, Manchester United have a far better starting 11 than Chelsea. You could maybe argue it in terms of potential, but this season isn't about potential, it's about current ability. And even in terms of quality and depth, you've still got players like Mason Mount, who isn't a starter in this combined 11, and you could argue that when everyone is fit for Manchester United, isn't actually a starter for Amorim's side either. If you point to André Santos at Chelsea, I can then point to Kobbie Mainoo at Manchester United. Casemiro, despite not being ideal for Manchester United last season, with Amorim changing his tactical style, going long from the build-up, and also not pressing as aggressively, this significantly reduces the exposure of Casemiro's flaws. Add on to this Manchester United only really playing one game a week for most of the season, whilst Chelsea are not only playing European football, but Champions League football, and I can't see how you can say that Manchester United shouldn't be finishing above Chelsea this season. And so whilst on the surface saying Manchester United could win the league sounds absolutely outrageous when you factor in that we finished 15th last season, when you actually objectively look at the context of this season and compare United's squad against their other contenders for 4th and 5th place, if you are going to be talking about a group of underdogs or outliers to win the Premier League title outside of that top three, Manchester United surely have to be leading the pack. Now, of course, a counter-argument could be that whilst Manchester United may be the 4th most likely side to win the Premier League title, this is more of an indictment on the contenders outside of the top three, such as Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea and whoever else, rather than it is Manchester United being in a good position to even contend with the title, let alone win it. And to be honest, I pretty much agree with this, but when I say could, I'm not saying like 50% chance, I'm more saying between maybe 10 to 15. Significant enough to where if Amorim was to make a series of perfect decisions, both tactically in terms of personnel choice, and United were also to back him in January with one, maybe even two significant signings, it certainly shouldn't be out of the question that if United can stay in and around the title race going into the new year, because of the non-intentional advantages that we've actually given ourselves this season, through underperforming horrifically last season and at Grimsby at the start of the season, it definitely becomes a lot more possible than a lot of people think. And alongside this, I think the change in tactical meta that we've seen throughout the Premier League has maybe slightly, but not insignificantly, reduced the importance of the primary system that the title contenders use. And this is because the quality of pressing throughout the Premier League has now forced the likes of Manchester City and Arsenal to incorporate more direct verticality in their build-up phase, which has a consequence simply because those longer direct passes from deep have a significantly lower probability of being effective at linking play each individual time compared with the shorter passing sequences that we would see from the likes of Guardiola and others in previous seasons. This now reduces the amount of control the likes of Guardiola and Arteta have over each individual game. And so whilst over the past decade or so I would certainly say that the advantage that Manchester City had with Guardiola as their manager, even Liverpool as well with Jurgen Klopp, significantly reduced the possibility of an outsider out of the top two or even top three even getting close to a Premier League title, I think now this season, because of the increase in direct play, long balls and utilisation of quick transitions, Guardiola, Arteta and Arne Slot are no longer significantly better than the rest of the league. I think whilst they probably still are the best coaches within the league, the gap between them and the rest, such as Enzo Maresca or Ruben Amorim specifically, has significantly closed, and if Amorim can find a way to tactically evolve this Manchester United side, taking advantage of the current change in tactical meta, it may catch the rest of the league unprepared for how to deal with it. And even if that particular tactical evolvement isn't something that's going to be suitable long term, with the rest of the Premier League coaches eventually working out solutions in order to deal with Manchester United and make them less effective, even as early as the start of next season, that doesn't have any effect on the Premier League title race this season. And in a follow-up video, I am going to tactically analyse in detail the specific things that Amorim could adjust to his current system to give Manchester United a better chance of competing or even winning the title. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and give the video a like so you are likely to get recommended it. But before I finish, I have got two more reasons to add to the list. The first is the amount of clutch players that Manchester United have. I mean, Mbeumo, Cunha, Bruno Fernandes and Sesko are all players who have the individual quality to win us games on their own. We've already seen the difference that Mbeumo and Cunha can make, with Mbeumo providing this with his finishing as we saw in the Liverpool game, and Cunha providing this in terms of his overall performance. Bruno Fernandes without doubt is one of the most clutch players in the Premier League, as he's proven throughout his time at United, and Benjamin Sesko is one of those players who can score from angles and situations that not many other strikers can. And if you just look at his goal catalogue whilst at RB Leipzig, I mean, it's pretty obvious what I mean by this. Because I would say even the likes of Erling Haaland and Alexander Isak don't have the ability to score from the sort of angles that we have seen Sesko score from frequently throughout the last few seasons. And so think of this over the course of maybe 4 or 5 games where United are struggling to score a goal, it's maybe going to be a draw or a loss, or even in a game where it's essentially a 6-pointer at the top of the league. With Benjamin Sesko up front, you don't even necessarily have to create a high value chance, which can be enough to win you a game on its own. And so having Mbeumo, Bruno, Cunha and Sesko, at least 3, potentially 4 clutch players in your attack, gives you a significant advantage in individual games, which can be the difference between maybe dropping 2 points, losing a game, or winning or drawing, which keeps you in that title race. And forget the attacking players, you've also got Harry Maguire, who as he showed against Liverpool, and even Lyon last season, and many other games throughout his time at United, can be a clutch player on his own, winning United games that we probably should have lost, and being capable of winning Manchester United games in the final few minutes that we may not have even deserved to get a point from. And that isn't even mentioning Ahmad, who last season came in clutch multiple times throughout the season. Even Casemiro's been known to come up with important goals during significant moments of matches and the season. And add on to this another reason, simply Old Trafford, and the advantage that it gives Manchester United may be a greater advantage than any other side has at home throughout the season. And we can see this just because over the past few seasons, think about how bad we've been under Ten Hag and Amorim. Yet even still, look at the amount of times that we've been bailed out, specifically at Old Trafford, coming from behind and winning games that we probably didn't even deserve to draw. And that's even last season when we were averaging a point a game. Now extrapolate that to the amount of games and points won that we could receive if we were a Champions League level side or even contending for the Premier League. This could be a significant advantage that maybe other than Liverpool, no other Premier League side can recreate to the same effect. And so whilst I don't think Manchester United will win the Premier League, I think we'll probably finish 5th, I definitely think that if Amorim and also Ineos and the board in January play their cards right, United could at least be in a title challenge. And in future seasons, we are likely going to have Champions League football, which reduces that advantage that we have this season in terms of playing once a week. Playing once a week is a massive advantage in a title race. First of all, you've just got less fatigue throughout the entire season, because just think about it in terms of numbers. I mean, in the first part of the season, Manchester United having only played 1 League Cup game, compared to, say, a Liverpool, Arsenal or Manchester City, who go far in the League Cup, but also have European games, are playing maybe 15 games less just in the first half of the season. But also just in terms of training, I mean, without that midweek game, United can basically focus on one specific opposition and have multiple training sessions. Whereas if you had European football breaking up that week on a Tuesday, Wednesday or a Thursday, you're not going to be able to focus on each individual Premier League game as much as United are this season. And so once again, that is a tremendous advantage that Ruben Amorim has at Manchester United, which alongside all the other reasons I've mentioned, significantly reduces the probability of United winning the title compared to the top 3 of Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester City. So let me know if you agreed with my reasoning in this video, and subscribe to the channel and give the video a like so you do get notified when those specific follow-up videos come out. And if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. You can use code Atlantis at checkout to get a 10% discount. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments section below. And you can also sign up to my Patreon and get a 7-day free trial. So I'll leave that linked on the end screen alongside that.